Hello and welcome back to another week of Sambo iRacing, and today I'm going to walk you through my complete Moza pit house setup for my wheelbase, the steering wheel and the mBooster brake. I'm going to explain what every major setting does, and just as importantly, I'm going to explain why I choose to run them this way. These settings for me give me strong detail, predictable control and long-term reliability from the hardware. So first up here on the dashboard, you'll see my R21 is actually set to 60% force feedback intensity. Now, because the R21 is a 21 Newton meter base, running it at 60% gives me about 12.5 Newton meters peak torque. When I had the R12 prior to having this, I used to run it at 100% because I like 12 Newton meter peak torque. I do like quite a heavy wheel. I run it at around 12.5 Newton meters, not so that I don't make the best of the R21 Ultra, but it's the sweet spot. It's strong enough to be immersive, but not so high that it's fatiguing or overstressing on the motor. It also reduces long-term wear because the base never really needs to push at full capacity. Also means that when I run a long stint in an endurance race, or when I'm struggling on a track guide and it takes me 3 hours to complete it, my wheelbase itself isn't steaming hot by the end of it. On the home screen, you'll also notice that my steering angle is set to a maximum of 540 degrees on the wheel itself in real life, which in the sim translates to 900 degrees of virtual rotation. Using a lower physical rotation with a higher in-sim rotation gives me quicker steering responses. It means that when the rear steps out, I can catch slides faster and with less hand movement. However, that extra responsiveness is a blessing and a curse. Yes, it is easier to save a slide, but it also means that the car reacts to smaller steering inputs. So it can be trickier to make precise corrections without overdoing it. It's all about field preference, but this balance works great for me. You should try it if you haven't. For me, certainly on a car like the MX-5, it really is a blessing. Okay, so we come on to the wheelbase settings. Now, starting off with basic, I've already been through the maximum steering angle. I have that set to 540 in real life, and I set that to a 900 in game. Soft limit stiffness, that just tells you what happens once you get to the end of the 540, so the 270 to the right or the 270 to the left. I have that set to 10 hard, and that just basically means that once I get to the limit, I can't push any harder. I can't push through it. If you have it set to 1, then it just gives you that extra freedom of pushing through the maximum, but I don't see the point in having that. Game force feedback intensity, I have that set to 60%. That then means that I have 60% in the professional game intensity. They follow each other, but you can go all the way up to 200%. You just be breaking your arms on a 21 Newton meter base. I have the maximum output torque limit set to 13.7, although it's moot really because the 60% that this affords me is actually under that limit anyway. Force feedback reversal, I don't have, obviously. Hands-off protection, I have on to try and stop me breaking my wrist if I run into a turn 1 at Daytona, as an example. Maximum wheel speed, I have that set to 100. It can go all the way up to 200, but I'm not into drifting, so I don't need it to travel extra fast. Under advanced settings, now interpolation, it just allows the rough signal being received by the simulator to be interpolated to give you a smoother sort of output. I have mine set to 5. That's perfect for iRacing. I have a no dead zone compensation on my force feedback center. Natural damping, I have set to 15. Again, the higher you go on that, the smoother the output's going to be to your steering wheel. But I do like to feel what's happening under the car and whether I'm running over a curb or a white line or whether I'm going over grass or anything like that. So 15% is the sweet spot for me. Natural friction, I have set to 55%, and natural inertia set to 150%. That's because when I'm receiving no force feedback from the wheels, I still like my wheel to feel slightly heavy. It lets me know that I'm driving a car and that it isn't just freewheeling. Game spring and game damping, game inertia, all of these things I have set to off. Wheel spring strength, I have set to off because, again, I'm using iRacing. But if you're using a game that doesn't have any natural force feedback, you can have that on there. Gear shift vibration intensity, I have set to 5. So when I change gears, I feel it through my hands, as well as the butt kicker kicking me up the arse. Anything else? Yeah, I have the temperature control strategy set to radical, although again, that's relatively moot because I'm only using 60% of the power of my actual wheelbase itself. However, if you're using 100% because you're on an R10 or an R12 or anything like that, Again, you might want to use radical, because if you use it on conservative, as soon as your wheelbase starts getting hot, it will start ruining the actual force feedback that you're feeling. In terms of the force feedback equalizer effect, now I have it turned up to 100% on 0 hertz, 10 hertz, 15 hertz, and 90% at 25 hertz. I have it at 50% for the curb effects. That's more than enough to let you know that you're going over a curb, and 40% for the grass effect. But for the 100 hertz, I have it turned to 0, because if you have everything at 100%, which is how it comes out of the box, rather than giving you usable force feedback at the high end here, it literally feels like you're driving Bonnie Blue's latest Christmas present to herself, so it's not worthwhile. Bass curve, I keep everything linear on that. Miscellaneous, not very interesting. Obviously, I have the bass Bluetooth on. The bass status indicator I leave on, and I have startup music because it plays me a pretty tune. Button mapping, I've done nothing with that. And the bass LED, obviously on the R21 Ultra, I have these LEDs that show on the sides. Now, I can't see them when I'm racing because my monitor actually sits in between my bass and my hands. However, it is pretty for the wheel cam, and for anyone that's watching any of my guides or races, it moves from green to red to pink, and then when I need to change gear, it flashes on purple. And I set that by using the telemetry effect RPM. All very simple, all very straightforward. We will move on to the steering wheel itself now, the wheel rim. Right, so my steering wheel settings. Now, obviously, you can see here, I use the FSR V2 steering wheel, and these are the things that I use with it. So on steering wheel settings, I have it on Axis Combine. That's just because the last race I did was F4. So I have clutch bite points. It means that when I pull one, it goes up to that, and then basically it just allows me to get a better start. If I'm racing in a car where I don't need that, I just have it set to button. Band non-mode I have set to button, and stick mode I have set to button. And again, it's all very simple, all very straightforward. Indicator settings, I have it set to telemetry, and I have it set to RPM. So that's the telemetry effects there, and it just basically means that when I'm driving, these lights show me when I need to change gear, and the button light settings I just have to full brightness, and the button light color I have to that. Now, when it comes to the dashboard settings, because obviously it's got an inbuilt dashboard, now you can go for one of the pre-built dashboards, but for ease, for my track guides, because everyone always asks me what I'm using for my brake bias, I changed it so it just shows the gear that I use, the speed, the fastest time that I've done, and the estimated time with the brake bias shown in massive. And dashboard management, you can play about with these, but these are my settings for my steering wheel. Right, my settings for my actual pedal set. So going through the mBooster brake first of all. Yeah, this is the bit where you can really make your pedal feel very different if you do have the mBooster brake. Now, I have my starting pedal travel starting at 3.8 mils, and it runs to 24.8. Natural damping I have set to 18%, and damping when released also set to 18%. Natural friction I have set to 34%, and the end stop feeling and the end limit, I like it to feel hard rather than soft. Now, I did used to change these, whether I was in a Formula car or a GT, but I found that it's just easier for me having it set this way. So the minimum pressure I have is 1 kilo. That means that I can actually rest my foot right up against the brake without it setting it off. And the maximum I have set to 108 kilos. So if you do have the mBooster brake, feel free to go through this. You can pause it at any time. But these are my settings that I've ended up. And obviously, as with the force feedback curve, I like to use a linear set of inputs. In terms of the input mapping, I have it set to maximum threshold for pressure sensors set to 56%. And I have the sensor input ratio set to 88%. So that's 88% angle and 12% load cell. Now, you may wonder why I'm doing that, but if you've got the mBooster, just try it and see what you think for yourself. It basically means that so I'm pressing everything that I can into the steering wheel here, and you see, into the brake pedal, and I'm going up to, what's that, 91 in there, and that's using 108 kilograms. But that basically means that I know if I press reasonably hard like I am doing now, I'm going to reach this sort of 80% threshold. That's because I just find that better. It's very rare that I'm looking to go up to 100% because I'm not wanting to sort of dial in ABS, and I rarely drive a car where 100% is needed. And in terms of the effects that I use, I've taken to only using the brake threshold vibration. So if I go on to test, basically means that when I hit 70%, you can have it so that it vibrates. So a lot of people say, oh, how do you actually hit 70% and leave it in there to avoid jumping into the ABS? For me, it's because I've got this cheat mode where my brake actually vibrates my left foot when I get up to that. I have it set to 71 hertz. If you have it set nice and low, then what it does, if you see on the thing there, it actually vibrates it. And if you have it set really, really high, then you're just getting a really high pitched vibration. So I have it set to, oh, where was it? Yeah, around 70 hertz. Again, that's the sweet spot for me. And I have the vibration decay set to 0. So anyway, those are my Moza Pithouse settings. I don't think they are in any way definitive. I don't call myself an expert on the settings for Moza Racing, but these are what I've learned to love over the time using it. And for the throttle settings, again, I use a linear input curve, and I have it actually set so that it reaches 100% when I'm actually at about 90% real world. And that's for the simple reason that I don't like to always have to press so hard with my right leg. And I like to know that I'm already hitting 100% and I don't miss out. I used to have it set to 100, but every now and again, I would look back on a replay and notice that I thought I was at 100%, but it was sat here at 98.2%. So that's the reason why I moved it back that way, and it ensures that I'm always at 100%. Obviously, I could sort that out by calibrating my throttle more frequently, but I didn't. So let me know in the comments if I've missed anything, if I'm missing out on any wonderful setting that I'm not aware of. Do let me know. And if you found this remotely useful, please consider hitting the like button. It's not something I usually ask, but there you go. I've been Sambo iRacing, and I'll see you guys for week 1.